I think I was a pretty average kid, but I always had this thing about trying to find out how things work. So I'm those kids who used to be left by themselves, and then you find amechokora pasi or amefungua radio or something, just trying to figure out how things work. It was, I would say I was a curious individual. I don't think that has ever stopped. And I think that's one of the things that has led me to do the things that I do now. Based on where we started, or where I started my career from, I would say there wasn't a clear path. You wouldn't have been told that a design background is, and when I say design, I mean, you wouldn't have known what a creative director is, right? And there was a lot of learning on the go. There was a lot of innovating on the run. There was the first job, if I told you how I ever landed on it, I don't know whether to call it a fluke or whether to call it intentional, but it just, after high school, I happened to volunteer in an organization which contributed largely in the things that I know today. And this organization was called SCAD, Students Campaign Against Drugs. And the whole idea behind it was young people are better off counseling those that are in school, especially those that have just left school, to help them navigate the whole peer pressure lifestyle. So within that NGO, there was always thoughts around how do you communicate to people, how do you connect with these young kids, how do you manage evolution? And I think being in that institution led to a lot of experimentation. You know, there's a guy who said, if you're given like a manual written how to swim, and then you're given 6 months to go read it, and then after 6 months he comes and throws you in the ocean, the truth is that you will drown. Because as much as you want to romanticize planning, sometimes it is, if we just call it what it is guesswork. So I think one of the things that I came to learn the hard way was I initially thought that there's this thing called, and I need to say this carefully because I know there's a whole universe around it, but there was this belief that you're not going to start until you get money or you get funded. And so there was those ideas that I spent a lot of time trying to build business plans to pitch to so-called investors. And I'm not saying that this is not something that works. What I mean is, especially in a Kenyan context, funding of ideas is next to non-existent. And I think this is something that I learned the hard way. Having spent so many months drawing up documents, running up and down, trying to find the right person to speak to, all in which you have not started yet. You haven't started the thing, or the idea has not started coming to fruition. You're just romanticizing this whole idea that you're going to start when I get this. I'm going to start when I get this big office. I'm going to start when I'm able to hire 12 people. I'm going to start when I have cash for business development. All of that I came to realize later on that was a fallacy. Maybe it isn't for other people, but for me, and I believe a majority of those that are also starting, it wasn't something that was going to lead to any form of success. However, if you have started in whatever little way that you have, finding money to move from growth or to move from a point of having started to growth is a different conversation, because you've proved or you've provided proof of concept. You've provided that there is a market. You've provided that you can think about it. You've proved that you're not just romanticizing the whole idea of business. There's the other things of finding the wrong people to work with, partners who you're not aligned with in terms of not just, because business is not just about making money. You have to be, it's not always rosy. So you have to, if you're with some partner, there has to be alignment in terms of not just the good times, but also the nasty times. So the whole partnership thing is also a huge learning that I came. Sometimes we don't want to. We just want to meet somewhere and say we're going to do this, and we don't understand our characters. We don't understand where we crumble, and how my personality complements your personality, and how your personality complements mine. So that whole space of partners is also a huge part, because it has led to a lot of falling apart, especially with small businesses, especially when you're not in the rosy parts of the said business. We, as young people, have bought into some ideas that may not be correct about, let me call it success. I think success is not and I know this sounds cliche, but it's not a destination. It's consistent evolution. If you study all the businesses that are leading businesses in this world, you will realize that you cannot discount time as a factor of excellence. So one of the things that I feel we do not have is patience. And it sounds simple, but it's a real thing. You know that quote by Mike Tyson about everyone has a plan until you're punched in the face. That's the marketplace. You have this idea about something, and then you get into the marketplace wants to correct you. If you're too stuck to if you're not in there to learn, if you're not in there to evolve with the learnings, you will fail to grow. And frustration is birthed out of that. A lot of the businesses that fail, they fail also because of the wrong ideology of starting. And maybe this is a bigger conversation, but there has to be a bigger reason as to why you're starting beyond the making of money. One of the biggest challenges I feel we have as young people is the environment of doing business changed. How you did business 20 years ago is not the same way as today. Of course, the difficulties of then there were difficulties at the time, but they manifest themselves differently today. If you were starting a soap business in the 90s, the majority of what you needed to do was go through the manufacturing process, make it available, tell people that it is there. Of course, that has its challenges then because information wasn't trickling in as much as it is now. But today, just being in the marketplace doesn't mean that people are going to buy. So we also have to start learning how the world works. We have to expose ourselves to different forms of information. Unfortunately, these are not things that you will learn in school. They are things that will be learned by immersing yourself consistently every single day. And I think being curious and being always questioning yourself. How can this be? What can we do? Why is this working like this? There always has to be those questions. So I think one of the things is patience. Two, I think constant learning, consistent learning. Like I cannot even belabor that point more. And I'll say that because a majority of the businesses that we want to do now are skills-based. They are knowledge-based. It's not just trade. And I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with doing trade business. The way you have to expose yourself to new knowledge. And thankfully that information is all around. You can pick up master classes. which are available even from global universities or wherever. Surround yourself with people who have some form of clarity, not just on one subject matter, on various things. Go back into not that long of a history. Go back into businesses that were maybe 15 years ago. Just check what did they do that worked. What are those things that we need to do that will make yours work? And then I think the other thing is just don't be scared to start small. It is a huge problem. A lot of us want to not be seen crawling. We want to be seen high rolling. It's a fallacy that I feel it's a self-awareness thing, which we need to come to terms with. I'm starting small, but it doesn't mean that that's the destination. Yeah, we just need to have patience, understand that it's consistent learning, and get ourselves immersed into our subject matter in a very day-to-day deep way, and exchange information, learn from the surroundings around you, and so on and so forth.